Hi everyone, good Tuesday evening to you. It is 21 News Chief Meteorologist Eric Wilhelm, and this is the video we call Weather for Weather Geeks. It's our daily deep dive into weather locally and nationally as well. And we've got some interesting things to talk about certainly over the next 24 hours as Beryl, or what's left of Beryl, which of course used to be a hurricane, makes its closest approach to our area. First, a quick review of today's numbers. Didn't get quite as hot as expected today because we had just too many clouds today. We had kind of a deck of basically debris clouds from Beryl's remnants that moved overhead and kind of short-circuited our warm-up a little bit. It was still quite muggy, but we made it to 86 at the airport today. We were expecting something a little bit closer to 90. 83 is our average, and as I mentioned on Weather Geeks last week, we're now at 83 for our average high for basically almost the rest of July. This is our plateau in terms of temperature averages. Then they start declining a little bit as we flip the calendar to August. 64 was the low this morning, and no measurable rain at the airport today. We had a couple of sprinkles earlier on. This afternoon into this evening, the radar pretty quiet here locally. As we head through the 7 o'clock hour, I'm expecting it to stay largely quiet for the next handful of hours. But some interesting things happening to our south and west, certainly. Still a severe weather risk in the red box. That's a tornado watch, of course, from Cincinnati down towards Evansville. Louisville, a good chunk of western and central Kentucky, a few counties into Illinois as well. The center of Beryl's remnants is about right there in southern Illinois, with a track that's going to go like this. That's going to take the heaviest of the rain on the northwest side of it and the severe weather risk on the southeast side of it as we go through the overnight tonight. And where we are expecting the heaviest amounts of rain, flood watches are out, no surprise, from parts of lower Michigan, northern Indiana, southern suburbs of Chicago, down towards the St. Louis area as well. All right, interesting setup for us overnight as the center of low pressure moves out to our west. What we're looking at here is a product that basically predicts the best location for possible rotating updrafts with thunderstorms. And, you know, Beryl's track out here puts us in a pretty favorable position for changing of the wind direction with height through the atmosphere. Basically, on the east side of Beryl, there's a warm front lifting off to the north. And in the low levels of the atmosphere, the wind overnight will be basically southeast to south-southeast. Now, upstairs several thousand feet, it's a little more southwest to eventually west. That's wind shear. And even though the instability will not be very high, this is middle of the night after all, there is enough wind shear that we'd have to be concerned perhaps about some sort of a feisty thunderstorm or two overnight with a very low wind chance but non-zero chance of strong winds and an isolated tornado. Timing on this, again, this is wee hours of the morning, so let's back this up to about 3, 4, 5 a.m. This is our best chance of hearing some noisy thunderstorms pushing through. Now, there's a chance a lot of this is what we call elevated instability. There's just not much instability in the lowest levels of the atmosphere, so everything stays kind of elevated, and that makes it hard for rotating updrafts to lower closer to the ground. And that's a distinct possibility. That happens a lot overnight where you have plenty of wind shear, but because in the lowest 1,000 feet of the atmosphere, the air is not super unstable, you don't see anything real dangerous happening because the storm, the best energy is way upstairs and not able to translate fully down to the surface. So bottom line for you tonight, stay weather aware. Maybe, leave your device on instead of on silent for the overnight in case we have any warnings. This will be when most of us are sleeping, 3, 4, 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. Now, as we get into the daylight hours on Wednesday, that warm front continues lifting to the north, and we are expecting the severe weather risk for a lot of the daylight hours on Wednesday to be out to our east. We talked about this last evening, that the severe weather outlook put out by the Storm Prediction Center would look something like this, with an elevated risk, low-end Category 1 risk, a lot of New England, down towards the Mid-Atlantic, and a Level 2 risk for the Finger Lakes of New York and heading over towards the Hudson Valley and into interior parts of New England as well. And so what I kind of speculated on last evening, the Storm Prediction Center did draw that with their risk for tomorrow. Now, we're going to have kind of changeable weather on Wednesday. I think there'll be a distinct difference in how it feels outside early in the day and later in the day. That's because we have a warm front coming through in the morning, but then a cold front in the afternoon as the center of Beryl continues pushing out to the east. We'll start to notice the breeze picking up before midday, and especially as we get into the afternoon, there could be a gust of 30 to 35 miles per hour. And with this increased breeze, I think eventually, especially as we get towards evening, we'll see the breeze accompanied by some cooler and drier air starting to filter in. Now, it's not going to feel like October outside, But I do think with subtly lower dew points, that gusty breeze around, it's going to feel pretty nice outside by 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. Instead of dew points in the lower 70s, dew points will be largely in the lower 60s. And with that breeze and with the temperature cooling off from the 80s through the 70s, again, it'll feel different by 6 p.m. as compared to 1 p.m. in a lot of our areas. So if you're planning on heading to the Trumbull County Fair or doing anything else Wednesday evening, plan on, some of the more comfortable air that we're going to have this week trying to settle in. Now, as our upper level low pivots through the Great Lakes Wednesday evening through Thursday morning, there could be a couple of sprinkles or showers with that, but not expecting much rain out of that. So again, a hit or miss shower or a thunderstorm, a possibility right around midday, right around 11 o'clock, noon, 1 o'clock. It's not going to be much, and I don't think there's much of a severe weather risk here locally. Out to our east of I-79 especially, that's a different story. DuBois, Clearfield, Clarion along Interstate 80 over towards Bellefonte State College, and then heading up towards the Route 86 corridor in western and central New York. Yeah, severe weather a concern over there. But for us, maybe a passing shower or storm around midday. As we head towards the evening then, in this wraparound cyclonic flow, might there be a sprinkle or a shower? Yes, and I think the clouds are going to hang tough through at least the first half of the day Thursday before thinning out in the afternoon. And then a pretty nice day coming up on Friday, although it's going to start to warm up. And speaking of warming up, Friday through the weekend, plenty of warm weather to talk about. Will we have any storms to contend with? That's the big question. Now, our weekend forecast is a dry one for Saturday. I think we have generally benign weather kind of in between this ridge and this ridge on Saturday, a little bit of a mini ridge trying to poke in. By Sunday, there's enough of a weakness in between those ridges, a little upper level disturbance, real subtle, trying to pivot in by Sunday that we're going to allow for a chance of a shower or a thunderstorm. Here's that little feature. Notice there's a little bit of a southward dip in these lines, these upper level contours. On Sunday, that could be enough to spark some showers and storms before the day is through. And as we head into early next week, I think there'll be a few chances of showers and storms Sunday night into Monday and into Tuesday. This is a pretty favorable setup for some northwest flow thunderstorms. Our ridge is centered out here. We have a trough moving through the southern Canada prairies, and then the wind aloft is kind of in this direction, northwest, and you'll see thunderstorm clusters cascading down in that northwest flow, I think, on a few occasions early on next week. This is not a particularly hot pattern in the medium and longer range. I think there's going to be some hot weather certainly at the end of the week and into the weekend with highs near 90. But once that upper level trough moves through the eastern U.S. around the middle of next week, it doesn't look super cool or anything like that. But, lower 80s, even beyond this 10-day forecast through maybe the 25th, 26th of July. To me, it doesn't look particularly hot. The heat may try to build back in at the very end of July into August. But this stretch right here, this 4 or 5 day stretch right here, late in the week, into the weekend, maybe our hottest weather until the very end of July. That's kind of the way things are looking right now. So again, stay weather aware tonight in case we have some rowdy thunderstorms that try to roll through while you're sleeping overnight. For tonight, we'll have you covered on 21 News at 11 this evening. Early risers tomorrow morning to see what's going on, what happened overnight. Be sure and check out Jimmy Wendelek's forecast on WFMJ today on social media and the Storm Tracker 21 app. Have a great rest of your Tuesday night, and thanks as always for watching.